This is highwithoutcoke and welcome to my first Path of Exile video, also my first YouTube video. Path of Exile 3.22 is 2 weeks away, and while waiting for it, I decided to give Artillery Ballista a shot. I saw someone playing it and I thought this skill looks really cool. I just had to try it. So today, the build that I'm going to share with you is this Artillery Ballista build, utilizing the rated ascendancy class. Why did I choose the rated ascendancy class? When I was making this build, I had several goals that I wanted to achieve. I want this build to be fast while having decent offense and defense. After reviewing all potential ascendancy classes, I chose rated because it specializes in evasion, movement speed, and attack speed. Also, I feel like there is a lot of synergy between the rated ascendancy class and other aspects of this build, for example, the skills and the gears. For some quick information, Artillery Ballista is a ballista totem that fires a sequence of arrows into the air. The arrows fall to the ground and deal area damage to the enemies around them. Unlike spell totems, a bow is required to play this skill. Now, let's jump right into the pros and cons of this build. This build absolutely melts bosses and has awesome clear speed. It also has great mobility, which is very important for dodging enemies' attacks, especially in times of emergency. This build gets up to 100% increased movement speed without using a Quicksilver flask. The defense is decent as well, so you rarely die while mapping. Also, the totem offers an overall safe gameplay because you can place a few totems and just run around dodging enemies. However, this build might be slightly expensive for some players, as it requires 30 to 40 divines to put this together. This build is not meant to be tanky, so one must rely on dodging a lot. This build is vulnerable to physical damage, as it has very little armor. Some people might not like the playstyle because your damage comes from your totems instead of you. You can't leech from monsters, so you will need other forms of life recovery. So, how does this build deal damage? This build has 7 ballista, firing 11 arrows each. Each arrow deals around 700k Guardian DPS. Assuming 4 arrows hit the boss per ballista, we will have around 20 million Guardian DPS. Also, the bigger the bosses, chances are they are going to get hit more. This build scales a lot of attack speed with 6 frenzy charges, onslaught, and haste. I have close to 100% critical strike chance thanks to brittle and more than 500% critical strike multiplier. To further boost my damage, I use Sniper's Mark and Elemental Weakness. By taking the Avatar of the Veil notable from the rated ascendancy class, we can apply fire, cold, and lightning exposure to nearby enemies, lowering their resistances. For defense, besides having high evasion, 100% spell suppression, and 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments, this build can apply 20% sap to the entire screen, causing us to receive 20% less damage from sapped enemies. The cast when damage taken steel skin setup allows 70% of damage from hits to be taken from the buff before life or energy shield. The buff can take 2209 damage at level 20. Some quality of life features, for example, corrupted blood immunity and chance to avoid bleeding, allow you to map with ease. The defensive flasks used in this build have long uptime and help to increase survivability. This build is built around this unique helmet, Wilma's Requito. It has this mod, increases and reductions to cast speed apply to attack speed, meaning if you use buffs like haste, onslaught, and frenzy charges that increase both cast speed and attack speed, the effect of your buffs is doubled. Ancestral Bond gives +1 to maximum number of summon totems. The downside is players cannot deal damage directly with skills. For your bow, I recommend getting one with at least 1.2k elemental DPS and 1.7 attacks per second. You can try to craft yours using Essence of Wrath. For other mods, look for accuracy rating, critical strike chance, or critical strike multiplier. My Crucible tree is nothing special. The most important node is probably this. +90 to intelligence is nice because this build really lacks the intelligence. You can also craft strength and intelligence on your bow if you have an open suffix. For my quiver, I managed to grab this for a cheap price. You can use Essence of Wool to craft a decent quiver. Get a nice base, spam Essence of Wool until you get decent life and attack speed. There are many other modes you can look for. For example, flat elemental damage, critical strike multiplier, or accuracy rating. Projectile speed is a good mode as well. Since we took this bow mastery, more projectile speed also means more damage. Harry's Ire is the best in slot body armor for this build. Since we don't use Grace Aura, most of our evasion comes from Harry's Ire. With this body armor, we achieve 100% spell suppression chance, 30% from Harry's Ire, 40% from the rated ascendancy class, and the rest from the passive skill tree. This body armor also gives a huge chunk of flat cold damage. The corrupted implicit is very important because we need to get our Artillery Ballista skill gem to level 22 to have +4 to maximum number of summon totems. These gloves are used to apply Wither on enemies. This mod, your hits cannot penetrate or ignore elemental resistances, does not concern us because we directly lower the enemy's resistances with exposure. The corrupted implicit +1 to maximum frenzy charges is a nice addition to our build because it increases our damage. I crafted these boots myself. I bought the fractured mod and spammed deafening essence of envy until I get decent life and other nice resistance mod. Then I crafted the mod chance to avoid bleeding. My jewelries are mostly to cap my resistances and to get the strength and intelligence needed for this build. Do note that you will need at least 2 jewelries with -7 to total mana cost. Also try to get some mana regen from mana sustain. I got Whisper of Doom anointment from my amulet so that I can apply an additional curse. My flasks are mostly defensive ones. You can use a sulfur flask if you want to have more damage. Since this build has no leech and very little life regen, I use a life flask to quickly recover my life. This is my Artillery Ballista gem setup. I use the Divergent one because it gives an additional arrow. Divergent Inspiration gives another 10% reduced mana cost. The Anomalous one gives 20% increased critical strike chance. Frenzy Setup. Frenzy is linked with Power Charge on critical to generate power charges. Curse Setup. I cast Arcanist Brand on the ground and it will attach to the boss and apply both curses. I only use 2 ores. I use Anomalous Haze to get 10% increased totem placement speed. Cost 1 damage taken setup. I have tried to use clarity, but I feel like it is better to drop it, so I don't use it anymore. For jewels, I got the corrupted blood implicit on my abyssal jewel. My other jewels are mostly unique. Ancestral vision is used to achieve a 100% chance to avoid elemental ailments. I use this keystone to inflict enemies with brittle. To reach ailment cap, which is plus 6% critical strike chance to brittle enemies, I use Fury of Nature Forbidden Jewels. Rain of Splinters gave plus 2 projectiles. Combined with 7 from the skill gem and 2 from the helmet enchant, we have 11 arrows in total. I use Lethal Pride Jewel to get more damage and life. And some life regen. My passive skill tree is nothing special, but for life recovery, I took this Flask Mastery. I took Avatar of the Veil and Avatar of the Chase from my ascendancy. For Pantheon, Lunaries and Grapple are my default choices. However, I switched to Aracali and Rizletha for some boss fight. For example, Uber Shaper. I actually wanted to get this Lethal Pride instead of the one I'm using, but none of the sellers were online when I was putting together this build. Well, it's end of the league, so nothing can be done. This Lethal Pride would give me more damage, however, the budget for this build would have been doubled. So yeah, this jewel is expensive. Only get it if you have a lot of currency. I farm a lot of Blight and Blight Ravage maps. This build is awesome for Blights. Even tier 16 Blight Ravage maps are easy if you know what you're doing. Expedition farming is as smooth as butter. The monsters die very quickly, so you don't have to worry about the monsters attacking you with the extra modifiers. This build can do all invitations, including the Elder Slayers, Deformed, and Twisted. Alright, that's it. If you think this video is useful, please take a second to leave a thumbs up to support this channel. Thank you and see you next time.